Hi, it's Bee from Crafting Daily Dose. Today I'm sharing with you another alternative from the April 2022 paper pumpkin called Change is Beautiful. Now you may know that I love interactive cards, so I was happy to see an interactive card already designed in this kit. This nighttime scene flips open to reveal a daytime sun instead. So since this is already interactive, I decided that I would just change things up a little bit by giving a different way to display that card and to give a little bit more room to write a message. So what I've done here is to put the scene inside of a little frame, and instead of flipping the card open, you slide this panel out to change your scene. The message is on the back, and there's also this easel that is going to allow the card to stand up to be displayed. So it stands on its own like that. So if you'd like to see how to change up this card, stick around. Here are the pieces for the card. The card base that I'm using from the kit is the one that has the moon and the sun on it. And I'm also using the die cuts from the kit that go along with it. So there's the star and the two clouds. Now in addition, I'm bringing in some extra cardstock. This is a piece of basic black cardstock that is 5.5 inches across by 4 inches in height. And notice that it's only 4 inches in height, so it's a little different than a quarter size sheet. This additional piece of basic black cardstock is 2 inches by 7 inches, and it's been scored at 1/2 inch, 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches, and 6.5 inches. And then I have a piece of basic white cardstock. It's 3.25 inches by 3.75 inches in height. Now, I don't always mention the adhesives, but in this case, I'm using the foam adhesive strips, which are maybe a little bit less common. Now, they're the same thickness, though, as the dimensional foam stickers that come with the kit. So if you don't have them, you can cut your own strips, especially from the edge of that sheet of dimensionals. But this is going to be a lot faster because it's already pre-cut to a 1/8 inch thickness. But this is going to be a lot faster because it's already pre-cut to a 1/8 inch width. And now we're ready to get started. I'm going to start with the stamping, and on this one I don't have that much to do. I'm just going to stamp a sentiment onto this basic white piece that forms our message panel. Now you want to be careful that you have that shorter 3.25 inch width along the top, and that the longer 3.75 dimension is going down the height. I'm choosing to stamp my sentiment in Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Here I'm stamping on top of the foam mat from my Stamparatus so that there's a little extra cushion underneath. I'm going to start by preparing the card base, and to do that I'm going to go ahead and pop out the moon and these little stars. I'm going to definitely save this star here. It's the biggest one. And then I'm going to save a couple of the other ones as well. You can save all of them and the moon if you'd like, but I'm only using a few of those other stars for the design. After I've punched out my shapes, I'm going to go ahead and do some trimming on this card base. So I'm going to start by cutting it right along the score line first. So I'm just lining up that score line with the track, and I'll use my darker blade to cut. Once I've done that, I'm going to trim a little bit off of the top edge on the sun here. And I want to make sure that I'm orienting it so that this is the top. I'm going to place this at the 1/4 inch mark over here on my right hand measurements, and I will go ahead and trim that off. So again, that's 1/4 inch off from the top. Now on this piece with the moon, I'm going to be trimming off 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. So again, I want to make sure that I'm orienting it so that I'm trimming on this edge. I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm using the 1/8 inch measurement that's over here on my trimmer. And for 1/8 of an inch, let me show you, it's actually this first tick mark that you can actually see there. So again, we've cut off 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. Now I'm going to turn so that this top edge is now turned over to my right, and I'm going to place this at the 1/4 inch mark along my trimmer. So it's this first long line here, and I'm going to be doing a partial cut. So to do a partial cut, I'm paying attention to this notch that's on the side of my blade, as well as to the measurements that are along here. And starting from the top, I'm going to go down to just 2¼ inches. So right now the notch is at 2¼ inches, and that's where I'm stopping. Now coming from the bottom, I'm going to go from the bottom up to 3¼ inches. And you can see that I have stopped at 3¼ inches. So this is what our piece looks like so far. We've got these 2 little flaps that we've created. Now I'm going to bring in my snips and do a little cutting up at the top so that I create a tab here. So basically I'm going to do an angled cut, kind of like this. You don't have to fold it first, I'm just folding it so that you can see what we're aiming for. So this is what we're looking for. I'm eyeballing mine. You can measure yours if you want to be more precise, but I think this is fine. So that's what it looks like. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is to trim off a little bit from each of the sides. So actually I want to turn my piece this way so that I've got this nice flat edge to work with. So I'll show you this line here in between the brown and the white is the 1/16 inch mark. The first tick mark that you see is 2/16 of an inch, which is the same as 1/8. And then we're going for this second tick mark that we can see, that is 3/16 of an inch. And then I'll turn it around this way, and I'll cut 3/16 of an inch again. And here's what we end up with. While I have this piece out, I'll go ahead and glue on the die cuts. Now, I'm a big fan of dimension, and normally I would be using those dimensional foam stickers to give those pieces some lift. But in this case, I want to make sure that I'm gluing them down flat so that I don't cause an obstruction in the final card. I want to make sure that I'm not putting glue on the parts that are going to go over the hole. So I'm going to keep my fingers there to block it and remind myself not to put glue. And here I'm basically using the same layout as the original design. Now remember this star? This was the one that got punched out from here. It's the largest one from all of those punch outs. So I'm going to take this and I'm looking for the arm of the star that is the largest one. It's this pointy one right here. I'm going to take and flip the whole thing over, and I'm going to use that extra pointy arm to go right up here on the tab that I've created, so that in the final card, when the rest of the star is covered up, this little arm is going to look like an arrow that's going to point up to let the recipient know that they should pull that tab up. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on this and put it in place. So here's what that front panel looks like now. We'll go ahead and set this aside. Now on this one, all I need to do is to put those foam adhesive strips around these 3 edges. I want to make sure that I'm leaving this top edge clear. All I'm doing here is lining those strips up with the outer edges. And now this front panel is done. Now let's talk about this basic black piece that we're using for the frame on the front of the card. If you have the stitched rectangle dies, then you would want to use the 3rd largest one. So it's this one right here. You can center that over your piece and go ahead and cut it out. You'll get a finished look with some nice stitched details. But if you don't have the dies, don't worry. I'll show you how to use your trimmer to make an opening that's approximately the same size. We're going to do some partial cutting again, and this time we're going to create a border that's 1/2 inch all the way around. So starting with the long side along the top, I'm going to go ahead and put this at the 1/2 inch mark using the measurements that are on the right. And here, since I'm cutting into the shorter side, I'm going to start my cut at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to go down to 3.5 inches. I'm going to turn it 180 degrees so that now I'm going to be cutting on the other short side. Again, putting it at 1/2 inch. And cutting from 1/2 inch down to 3.5. This time I'm going to turn it just 90 degrees. So now the short side is along the top and I'll be cutting into the long side. I'm going to put this at 1/2 inch. This time I need a longer cut from 1/2 inch down to 5 inches. I've turned it at 180 degrees again, and I'll make that same cut. 1/2 inch down to 5 inches. Now, if there are some areas where I wasn't perfectly precise, I can go ahead and just snip off the little extra that's still left hanging. And now I have my frame. All of our pieces have been prepared, and so we're ready to start putting everything together. I'm going to start with the back. So it's this part right here. This basic black piece is going to form an easel to help our card stay upright for display. And then this is the message panel. They're going to come together on the back like this, and you can decide whether you want your message panel on the left or on the right. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to put mine on the right because that way I can write my message later without that easel getting in the way when I'm trying to write, but you could really do it either way. To prepare that easel, you're going to notice that you've got 3 score lines. You want the one that is kind of by itself up here at the top, and then the cluster of 3 down towards the bottom. So this first score line is going to be a mountain fold away. The second one is also a mountain fold, followed by a valley fold, and then finally a mountain fold. So when you look at it from the side, it's going to create this shape. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce those folds with my bone folder and then glue them in place. So I'm going to put some glue along this top tab here, all the way to the crease, all the way to the edges. And since I'm putting it on the left, I'm going to line it up with this top left edge. Next, I'll accordion fold this bottom part and make sure that everything lies down flat because you want it to be able to be flat for mailing. And then I'll go ahead and put glue on this tab. I'll tuck that tab under and fold down everything flat. Press it down and give it a chance to set. And I'll give you a look at it from the side. And now you can see that your card is going to stand up. Now the message panel is going to go in the remaining space, and I'm basically just going to center it over that space. And for this, you can either use glue or Stampin' Seal. Now I think it's kind of fun to sprinkle in some of those other stars that we had punched out from the front of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some dots of glue and then put them in place. I'm using the tip of my Take Your Pick tool to scrape off some of the excess. Now, a totally optional detail is to color in this foam here so that it's black, since the frame and the back are black. You can use a black blends marker if you have it, or something like this permanent marker. It can't just be a regular water-based marker though. If you decide to do this, take your time, be patient because you don't want that pen to slip, and then mark up part of your card. Now that I've finished coloring my foam, I can go ahead and put the frame on top. So I find it easier just to do a little bit at a time, and I'm going to start with this bottom section here. Now I'm using my fingers to make sure that everything is sort of squared off, but you can also place this on the edge of your scoring board, or even using your paper pumpkin box, just to make sure that you've got this nice sharp angle and that everything is lined up. So from there, I'm going to gradually peel off this backing as I'm ready for it. That way I don't have to worry about lining everything up all at once. And when I get to this corner, I'll go ahead and start to peel off the backing here, so I leave myself a little bit of a tail. And once again, I want to make sure that this corner is nice and square. Okay, that's looking good so far. So now I can go ahead and peel off the rest. Okay, that looks good. I realized I forgot to color in these tips of the foam. Here's our finished card. We've got our message on the back, and then our card stands up for display. And when the recipient is ready, they can change the scene from nighttime into daytime. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this dose of creativity. If you have a chance to try out the project, I would love to see it, so feel free to share it in my Facebook group or tag me if you're sharing elsewhere. If you're interested in Paper Pumpkin and don't yet have a demonstrator, you can find the subscription link as well as all of my other links in the description box below. I hope to craft with you again next time, and until then, have a great day.